Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to Victoria, aka Vicky 3. This is episode number 4. Now, last time our journey with Darfur, well, it ended rather abruptly internally. And we learned a lot from the experience, but it wasn't going much of anywhere anyway, and we were really struggling through. But, we were finding our way, and main purpose of that 3 episode journey was to learn as much as possible. With the information gained from that, I feel much more equipped to take on something a little more apt to commit. And this time, we're not going much in the larger direction. We're going to stay rather small. We're going to take a neighbor. We're going to go from the eastern edge of this West Africa edge, and we're going to push almost to the coast and much closer to the western edge to Ashanti. Ashanti, also an unrecognized power, but significantly better. GDP is 370,000 above that of Darfur. Military is 35 instead of 5 in terms of battalions. So there is some power here. Also, compared to those around them, Dahomey, Sokoto, Demagaram are all weaker than we are. But we do face a very, very looming threat. Denmark, with coastal province, Great Britain, the Netherlands, and France. 4 European powers have established coastal provinces. Now, presumably those were all Ashanti, and it was Ashanti's willingness to work with the Europeans that has seen them stronger than their neighbors. Literacy is still slow, standard of living is very low. There's still a lot of work to do with Ashanti, but compared to their neighbors, as long as you can appease the Europeans, you've got a decent chance of growing stronger. There's area to colonize around, there's area to conquer, especially beginning with Dahomey. But it'll depend on what our diplomatic situation is. We'll find out when we jump into the game. Well, first things first, we've moved out of the desert and the mountains of the desert into a much more lush terrain. Different products around here, chocolate, for example, should be prevalent in this region. We'll see when and where that becomes a factor, how we can make use of that. Also, noteworthy is we have not one but 2 states this time, and that's our start point. So that's useful. Okay. So this region is currently being colonized by Denmark, and that would finish that off. And that's a split state here for us. Looks like the French Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire is currently being expanded upon as well. So they are pushing up this direction. We would very much want to start by colonizing here to cut off the European expansion, if that was a possibility for us. Okay, so in our conquer state options, it looks like Dahomey is a place that we could. Denmark may side with the enemies on this one, so we'd have to watch out for that. But Denmark actually does not have much of an army at this stage. Early expansion options are available. There's plenty of nations that we actually can presumably attack and go after. Now, the first and most obvious, the one that is sharing a border with us, is Dahomey. And Dahomey have 10 regiments. We have 35. So we have a huge advantage. We're plus 25 comparatively. But it looks like Denmark may side with them. But that still only brings the number to 25 when we have 35. And it's early enough in the game that Denmark may not have a substantial advantage over us when they will later. Actually, in the quite near future, we might be level with them, but we might not. I don't know how far ahead tech-wise they would. So first thing is I want to get friendly with Denmark. I want to learn a little bit more about Denmark and see just how strong they might be. Everybody else appears to want to stay out. It's going to increase our infamy. It's going to hurt our relations with others. So we want to make friends with, well, quite a few nations in the short term before we get too expansionist. But it looks like Dahomey is a clear option for us to make some early, expansions. Yeah, our power projection for Denmark is 90. So that's something we need to watch out for. So 90 for a power projection. I don't know if that's something we can overcome. Our power projection might only be a 35, but let me see if that's actually the case. Okay, first realization here is that we are as bad on tech as pretty much possible. We have urbanization, we have standing army, and we have enclosure. We have 3 techs out of the entire tree. Now this is the same tree across the board for everybody. So we are literally right at the beginning of things. We're going to need manufactories. Very soon we're going to need military drill. Quite soon we're going to need mandatory service. Quite soon we're going to need rationalism, urban planning, and bureaucracy. And which way to go, right? I think the military thing could be a possibility, but maybe before I pick what tech direction to start on, I need to learn how we compare to Denmark. I know that their military power projection is 90. What does our 35 units add up to as a projection? Okay, power projection is right about as bad as I feared. It's a power projection of 38. So no, even though we have more units than Denmark, we are no match for Denmark. So we do not want to be attacking Dahomey anytime soon. Now their power projection is just a 10, but we cannot attack them while Denmark would interfere. So we would need to get either an enemy of Denmark on our side who would be willing to step in and help, or we're going to need to get them to stay out of it before we can have any say. But we are in the larger land of Senegal here, and actually we are mixed between Senegal and Niger, which is giving us the possibility of interest in both regions. We may not have a strong foothold on tech, and last time diplomatic plays were a problem outside of our region of the Nile, but Egypt occupied almost all of it, and then it was just colonization, which the UK came and put an abrupt halt to. But here, because we exist in 2 regions, we have interest existing in both without having to impact what we have. I like that. Right now the government is 100% legitimate, but it is entirely the landowners, and they have the most political clout by far. The devout, which I believe we are just animist, so I'm assuming the devout are just a group of animists who have a bit of clout. But we are experiencing isolationism here in the early stage of the game, so we are not going to be able to trade externally. So knowing what we have internally is going to be really important, as we are facing something similar. We do have a peasant levy army. Brief look at the economy. So poll taxes are bringing in a majority of our money. Taxation, income taxes, 674. So yeah, the poll taxes are definitely the big source of money. National expenses, it's military. That is the big cost, because we have those 35. So there's a lot of money. A lot of money in play here. But the poll taxes, I'm guessing, has something to do with the fact that we have nearly 1.2 million. Population growth is shrinking, though, so that's a bit of a concern. I'm guessing that may have something to do with tech. We're going to need a healthier population to keep them alive and get that growing, because right now that is the source of our income. Our larger province and capital is half the GDP, is roughly half the population, so we are split pretty evenly between the two states that we have here. And this state is split with Dutch Ghana and Accra, which is the British colony. And then this one, I'm assuming, is the other state. So that means the French Ivory Coast is, yeah, this is Ivory Coast over here. That's the next state over. Okay, we are a slave state. We do have malaria. So we're going to have to watch out for that one when we look to colonize, especially if we can't attack Dahomey anytime soon. Colonization is one of our only ways forward to outdo neighbors. We're going to need some either military tech fast, if we can make it happen internally, or we're going to need to colonize like we did the other time. Right now we have no urban buildings even possible because that tech is not unlocked. But 13 logging camps, beautiful, and 66 pieces of arable land with a single livestock ranch at the moment. Banana plantations that'll produce fruit, coffee, cotton, that's straight up fabric. Of course, the livestock does give that as well. Dye plantations, okay. Millet farms, the sugar plantations, and the tobacco plantations are available. So we have everything we had in Darfur, plus a couple of things. And actually, that wasn't even in Darfur. That was the second one, right? 20 out of 25 on the barracks, though, so that's already nearly full. Conscription center. Construction sector, we might actually want to get involved in here, even though it does certainly come with an expense. That's going to improve our rate of construction. And then, yeah, railway. Really liking the logging camp, though. That can support a lot. And meanwhile, in Togo, the urban center, of course, sulfur mines. There you go. Okay, sulfur mines. That can be good. You can make ammunition. Logging camps, just 6, but that's okay. 44 pieces of arable land, so it's not quite as good as the other one. We have the same set of options, the addition of the sulfur mines, but that's a lot. That is a lot that we could support there. We have got to get out of isolationism. We've got to get colonialism on the go as soon as possible, and we need to see what we can do to get Denmark out of the war, because what do they have in Dahomey? They have a couple fishing wharves, as they actually have a port. Would be great to get out of that isolationism. And their agriculture is 55 pieces of arable land with the same sets of options. But here, development-wise, they also have the port and naval base. We'd very much like to get our hands on Dahomey if possible. And that's just one state. So all the more reason that we could beat them head-to-head if Denmark was not on their side. I think the first thing I need to do is speed up tech research and help our population develop a little bit. So we're going to focus on trying to get academia first so we can get a university built. We have a fairly strong base for our economy up front, and we're going to build on that pretty quickly anyway. But with academia and university, we're going to get the literacy rate up, and that's going to speed up research. So I think that's going to be very useful for us. So rationalism is going to happen first, and then academia probably second. We're going to need a lot of wood for building, so let's go ahead and get our first logging camp on the go. First logging camp done. I'm going to get a banana plantation. I'm going to do a lot of back and forth between developing these two, as you have a fairly balanced population, fairly balanced set of possibilities between the two. So I want to kind of even it out. Right now, I want to start flooding the market with just the base level of everything. I want to get kind of ones of every product and going and seeing what that does for our standard of living and things like that, just to get them out there. I don't want to flood the market hardcore. I just want to get that base level, and it's going to come with some costs. It's going to come with some expenses, et cetera, as we kind of push through. But that banana So one logging camp, we've got one livestock, maybe the millet farm, probably wheat. Wheat's probably the next one to get, so we'll queue that up. Oh, is that going to it'll go at the same time? Okay. So here, do I want to get a logging camp then? I'll get another livestock ranch. Let's get a livestock ranch over here. Doesn't hurt to have one in each. Oh, okay. It's not immediately building. I think maybe the last week, right before this one finished, it used up a little bit less. Yeah, there you go. Our construction. And that's one thing, right? We can develop construction. So we can put something into construction. Now that we have the lumber, I think we might want to do that as the next thing after this. So we can build a little bit faster. Right now our limitation is 5. And we have plenty of growth potential short term. Denmark, still neutral, but we're up to a 17. Construction sector, it's going to cost some fabric and wood, but give us a +2 to construction, so making construction happen a bit faster and improving the efficiency. Okay, there's rationalism. First tech is done, so we've gone from 3 to 4. That's already a 33% improvement. Got a long ways to go yet, but like I said, academia will be next, so we can get a university built and start having a different set of... Okay, we're cordial with Denmark. Cordial with Denmark. Aha! Ta-da! At the start of the play, we will face these enemies, Dahomey, and their 10 armies. It is possible that others may join, but look who's not even on the list. Look who is not even on the list. Okay, we're going for it. We want to expand with Dahomey. Now, we don't want to expand rapidly and often. We don't want to anger those around us. Expansionism is a quick way to get yourself in trouble. We want that infamy to go away. We get plus 30% trouble caused, right? Attention on us, aggressive attention as an unrecognized power. But because we are attacking a fellow unrecognized power, nobody cares. So that's minus 20%. They care if we attack somebody. They're not happy by it. But they couldn't care less that we are attacking a nobody in Dahomey. So overall, we're looking just at 11. Now, Great Britain, Egypt could step into this thing. I think the one we want to avoid is Great Britain. So if we can, Britain are quite domineering to us. Let's improve those relations, huh? But we have a huge 35-10 advantage in this. So we'll see what happens as the diplomatic play transpires. Okay, they have mobilized 4 units already. We'll wait a little bit longer here to see. Yeah, they continue to mobilize. I think we need to mobilize just in case. And right now we have one general, who can take 20 units. 20 can beat 10 pretty easily when we are level. So the other 15 could remain garrisoned. So we're going to start mobilizing our up to 20 units. Whoa! Why do we have a huge... Oh no. Back down. We're going to back down. They actually want to open our market, which is something I like. And war reparations might not be a bad thing. That wouldn't be the worst outcome based on their war goals, but we are going to back down and play. Let's work on those relations with Great Britain, as they had decided to get involved. Okay, and we are back to being garrisoned. That's fine. Okay, we did just have that upgrade done. We're working on that first construction center. Not be a bad idea to get a logging camp on the go here. I don't think we've done tobacco yet, right? Just livestock and millet. Livestock, banana. Okay, coffee's still available. Let's get coffee. I'm gonna get one of each in each area. Ottoman Empire. Making a play on Egypt right now. Sugar and tobacco we haven't gotten into just yet, so we'll get a sugar plantation on the go. Like I said, we want to kind of get a base introduction of everything onto the market. At the moment, we are losing a ton of money. What just happened? The construction goods. Construction is expensive, and I'm guessing that has to do with the fact that we are using the construction center. We not want that right now. I see that pushed us up to 7. But it's coming with an expense that we didn't have. And that expense at 3,000. Ouchie. Do we want to maybe turn that off for the time being? Yeah, that's a huge negative in weekly cost. Okay, we're going to turn that off. Make those guys go away. Might radicalize a few people, but that's an expense we do not need to be incurring long term. We'll take the slower pace. Alright, so academia is unlocked. So we're going to turn our attention now to building a university. It'll come with a bit of an expense, but that's okay. So we've already brought our standard of living from an 8 up to a 9. It's growing. It's getting better. Missionary schools and hospitals. Okay, so Britain, we just hit cordial. Stopped improving relations, but we are at 20. So improved relations were broken. But does that mean Dahomey is back in? It does not mean Dahomey is back in play as Dahomey. We have a truce with Dahomey for the failed attempt. 3 years, just shy of 3 years before we can make a play on Dahomey, and we don't have a shared border with any of the others around us that we could do something with. We're about to maximize our relations with Denmark. We've already done so with Britain, though they are domineering towards us. So my attitude versus their attitude are different things. Dutch Ghana is a much closer one, so we're going to begin improving relations with them. And just try to keep these 4 friendly as much as possible. Alright, so we have our university up and running. We're not going to be able to advance anything at this point, but this is automatically funded by the state. It's weekly balance of minus 800, which definitely cut into the positive income that we had, but everything else is effectively generating income at this stage. So I'm not too worried about having done so, and we're going to continue to build the economy before we really bother to add much more. But the literacy rate should start rising, and we're going to see some positive outcomes, and it does lead to a faster research than otherwise. The more universities you have, the bigger your bonus towards your research rate. It's not a big difference. The base is 50. The university adds 1 to that. So it's a 2% increase on what we had. While that's minor, 2% is 2%. In the long term, it'll go a long way. More universities will be very helpful to speed that up even more. International trade is one of the things I'm trying to unlock now and see if we can't get our markets open. Because if we start producing something, we have the ability to export, which means we can actually get a lot more people employed. We've been flying through, and I really haven't updated a couple things here for a while. Let's get that first update. First off, GDP up, 140,000 already? So in a very short period of time. And, we're 5 years into the game right now. Literacy, I think we're up about 5 4 to 5%, but the university thing's still very new. Standard of living, almost 2.0, 1.9 increase. That's fairly significant, especially as we are still in the process of just kickstarting the economy. Population, okay, well, that's fine, but radicals are still quite low. We still manage to have a positive balance despite kicking in some expenses. We want to keep those gold reserves positive, though, for sure. So we are going to have to carefully calculate how we grow. We still have a year and a half before we can get after Dahomey. So we'll keep pushing on. Right now, I'm not going to worry about doing too many quick upgrades here. Let's kind of get back in and check where and what. The logging camp is struggling. It's definitely not ready for growth. The millet farm seems to be doing well and growing rapidly. So if there's anything that would get to a second, that would be it. This logging camp is just barely on the positive side. Having two of them in the two different territories, I think, is possibly hurting. The livestock ranch is doing well. That is growing rapidly, and so is the banana plantation. What about the tobacco plantation? Cash was... Whoa, buddy. Okay. The tobacco plantation is doing fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Fully employed, productivity is very high. Take a look at the market. Grain is fairly balanced. Lumber, yeah, see, right now we have not quite enough need on the lumber side. Same with fabric. There's not quite enough need. We're still just getting started. Right now it's production. It's getting things on the market. What to do with them, for us, is largely going to involve some research. And we've focused on socials early on. But yeah, there you go. Tobacco. Buy orders are high, so price is actually good, but it's similar. So if we make a second one now, it's going to get negative pretty quick. That's a big boost to the economy currently. Furniture. Looks like furniture would be something we would like to produce sooner rather than later. Same with clothing. Big demand for clothing that we don't have. No need for the sugar that we're producing at the moment, so price is very low. Paper is a need, so we're going to need to figure out how to get paper onto the market. All right, well, seeing the banana going really well in the other province, we'll go ahead and get banana going here as well, though, like I said, fruit onto the market isn't a big deal at the moment. Once we have a little more research and can make groceries, I'm sure it's going to be a much more useful entity for us. Right now, France is growing rapidly in this region. I don't think we have any chance of actually cutting them off. So territorially, we're probably going to want to start by expanding towards Mossy if colonization is a thing for us, and I think there's no reason not to get involved in that. But it's 1843. I don't know what part of 1843 Dahomey was going to become an option, but let's check on that now. First off, they still just have a power projection of 10, so we still have total dominance. All right, so 3 out of the 4 neighbors that we've worked really hard to build those relationships. For now, none of them seem too interested, though Great Britain is still absolutely on that list of potential enemies to show up in this one. Before we actually click on Dahomey, which I don't think that we have a peace treaty anymore. I think we're in the clear, but let's see how things are looking. It's the domineering part. So even though when it comes to Great Britain, the improving relations we can't really do anything with right now. We push that up as high as we can push. Their attitude towards us is they want to control us. Therefore, I don't think there's much that I can do beyond what we've already done to build those relations any further. Therefore, we're going to have to just take our chances with Dahomey, and if the UK suddenly gets involved, we've got to just back off. It's like realistically the only ones we would need to watch out for is Sokoto, which is the next neighbor over, and then Egypt and Great Britain. Everybody else that's on the potential side, as we got Denmark off of that list, everybody else is not going to be a concern as we can overcome them. All right, well, it's through the first phase. Nobody has joined them as of... Yeah, there they go again. Great Britain sides with Dahomey for the second time. They've been swayed. And we're going to have to instantly back down. We don't stand a chance when it comes to Great Britain siding with Dahomey. There's literally nothing we can do here. So even though there's no reason for them to, because they have that domineering attitude towards us, any act of aggression coming from us is triggering them, because they like to have any excuse they can to, take control of us. So here we go again, another back down situation. It's a 5-year truce, by the way, so we have 5 years to go before we're going to have the ability to make another attempt at conquering Dahomey. And in the short term, I don't see our situation really changing much. But international trade is unlocked. This is our opportunity to get out of our closed market system. So the path forward to getting out of isolationism is stock exchange. We don't have the government support to make it happen right now, but we certainly want to clear the path to making it a possibility down the road. The first industry that stood out to me as open, willing, ready to go and contribute to the market was the textile mills, the clothing. So we're going to go ahead and make our first textile mill now that that's all unlocked. I'm finding that the laws screen, there's a lot of laws that are locked behind other laws. So you have to kind of do a trickle down effect to get to certain laws. So things that we're targeting, that we're aiming, you got to begin elsewhere. It seems like for the isolationist small nation, and even though we've gone to a bigger version of that from Darfur, we're going to have to begin in the same place when it comes to passing laws. And the first one that's eligible and possible and has support is a local police force. So with high support, we might as well get on with it and get that first law, kind of that evolution, that progression, get it started. So the first phase was not a success, but it did advance, and we're now at 64% chance on this second phase that it will succeed as we continue on now into 1844. 8 years into the playthrough, but we are doing things that took 20 plus years to kind of get into last time. So it's definitely happening in a more accelerated manner than what we did before, including that continuing growth of GDP, and we're going to actually get into industries here soon. That's a big thing. Still didn't succeed. Wow. Okay. Progression again. Hurt armed forces, help the landowners, or just hurt armed forces. I don't need to help the landowners anymore, so we'll take the 15%. It's going to be almost guaranteed to succeed this time now at 80%. A little surprised it failed that time around, but this one is growing, happening fairly quickly. Unlike the textile mill that's taking 2 years to build. Guess I can't say much. My business took nearly a year to get up and running. And there it is, local police force. We have our first law passed. The brand new textile mill is starting off fairly well. I mean, you can see the employment levels are growing quite rapidly. It's not full, but it's doing far better than anything we were getting with Darfur. Having a larger population base is clearly, at least base level stuff, is happening in a far better, stronger manner. Stock exchange is done, and again, this is free trade laws. This is what we need to do to get out of isolationism, but there's going to be a lot of obstacles to overcome before we can actually just do it. At the moment, we are seeing a balance that's fairly neutral, but we have nothing in terms of authority usage. We aren't putting taxes on anything right now. We're keeping everybody fairly happy and not using our authority to push to boost the economy. So we've been doing fine. We've got plenty of gold reserves, 204K. First cotton plantation is done. The last agriculture piece that we haven't gotten into at all was the dye plantations, because there really isn't a need. This one's not going to help us economically. At least I don't expect it to. Certainly not up front, but would eventually. We have a tobacco, cotton, and coffee plantation in the other province. We have everything that it has over here. So it's all covered at the base level, except this one. So let's just get it done so we can complete the basic introduction of goods onto the market. That's our upfront, and you can see a lot of them are starting to do fairly well. The millet farm, the livestock, they've almost got their cash reserves full. The logging camps are starting to do much better than what they were now. So the textile mill is growing, succeeding, fully employed now. So productivity is actually pretty decent, and cash reserves growing for that one as well. So yes, we have a functioning market. Literacy's climbed by another couple percent. We've added over 100,000 in GDP in the last 3 years, 4 years. But at the moment, we're not really raising the standard of living. All we've done is really add clothing, which clothing was technically already on the market, just not good. Government administration is probably one of our next steps, but we are going to have to, at some point here, actually address the fact that we need, certain things. We need paper mills to help the university. We're going to need things like the food industry. With all this food that we're producing, we want to turn that into groceries. That's going to raise the standard of living quite a bit. So that's one of the best things we can do short term. But we are going to need some bureaucracy, so we do need that government administration. But let's help the economy a little more first. So food industry is next. Something is going on. There's a diplomatic play. The United States of America started a native uprising diplomatic play here. Ball begins conscription. United States is mobilizing. I don't think this is us being involved. It's just happening nearby. And yes, we have the option to declare neutrality. We don't need to take the side of the U.S. They have the strength themselves. So we're going to declare neutrality. Just barely slightly negative. And the reserves are high, so I'm not worried about it at the moment. But that negative is growing slightly. So we are, in the near future, going to look to use authority for the first time. Proposal for alliance. We have a military force that I do not mind using if necessary. And getting them to support ours is a good way to grow. I'd love to take over Dahomey and Damagaram and, make your way down through here and eventually Sokoto and, expand. Okay, we're going to start by our first consumption tax is going to go on to tobacco. Gives us right back into that nice, healthy, positive balance and barely touched the authority. And the play looks to be underway. Now you can really see the Ivory Coast. And there you go, U.S. The U.S. is growing and expanding here into West Africa. And all that empty territory that was here, most of it's been claimed now, except for Idaho a little bit. A bit of Canada still left. Canada is not united yet. Mexico's still strong and intact. Brazil is looking strong. Chile is looking strong. Prussia. No North German alliance, but they're getting big. And our path to colonization is definitely getting closer. already seen the benefit of it in the other playthrough. We might want to go there again now that we have it, know what it does. Centralization, I think it's going to be done soon anyway, so let's leave that. Let's get on with colonization. They're making another play here. So right now the US is aggressively taking much of West Africa. This is worrying. We did not see this in the other playthrough, but they are getting after it here while France is, slowly colonizing. Our independence could very much be under threat. Our expansion is being blocked by the UK, and then all around us, every other Western power is, well, not every other, but other Western powers are just rapidly going up, and we're in no position to halt that. So we're going to go ahead and take this first episode and leave this on that worrying note. While we are growing and expanding and doing quite well at this stage, we have nearly doubled our GDP in 11 years. So huge growth compared to what we were able to do last time around. Isn't necessarily coming at a cost, but the surrounding environment is coming with some very worrying signs. We'll see how that turns out as we go forward. I am Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.